Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Happy to be up about 3 units after one night of NBA action, picking up where we left off last season. Let's keep it going. I've got a bunch of player prop projections here in this one for you from all the games that we have tonight, as we got a full slate in the NBA. So if that all sounds good to you, go ahead and like the video. Let's get it. Don't forget, as we get into Terry Rozier, we are going to be having the live show again, 5:30 p.m. Eastern every single day. You guys bring your bets, jump in the comments. We go through that stuff together, and I show you the tools that I'm using and how I find these value plays. Definitely jump in there today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And let's get right into Terry Rozier. Scary Terry. I think I've got a really nice same game parlay for Terry in this one. I really like his under on the points. It's at 15.5 points. But I kind of like his over on the assists. So I took his points under, but I would also add the assist if you want to put another little bet in for a same game parlay. 3+ assists along with under 15.5 points gets you a nice plus 135 or so, depending on which book you're playing there. And the assists, if you wanted to add it to be 4 assists, his core line is at 3.5. You take over 3.5. Under 15.5 points, get that closer to actually 2-1 on your money for a little negative correlation. There's just some really interesting stuff with Terry when he plays with Hero and without Hero. And that's the dude that really eats into his usage more than anyone. And we know Tyler Hero was out for a long time last year. It's kind of why they got Terry Rozier towards the end of the season, to make sure they had another wing and top of the key scorer, right? Well, when Tyler Hero was out, he was at about 19 points per game, 33 minutes a game. Tyler Hero comes back. He drops down to 28 minutes per game, drops down to 11 points per game. So that's an 8-point per game difference. 20 games that he played without Tyler Hero, 11 games that he played with him. Pretty stark contrast, enough of a sample size for me to go, obviously there's something going on here. And when you put Jimmy in there as well, and he played with Jimmy and Hero, he only went over his points prop in 2 out of 10 games. So that's an 80% hit rate to the under. However, he did get 3+ assists in all 10 games that he played with both Jimmy and Tyler Hero, and he got 4+ assists in 7 out of 10 games. So we're talking about a 100% hit rate on the 3+ assists or a 70% hit rate on the 4+ assists. That's why I love adding these assists to a little SGP for Rozier tonight. On the other hand, I kind of like an over for Jaime Jaquez and his points in this game. What you have to look at with Jaquez is we're getting value because Nikola Jovic is named the starter, but Jaime Jaquez is going to play more. I mean, he averaged 28 minutes per game last year. He's looking at probably a projection of 27 to 28 minutes in this game, whereas Jovic, despite starting, at about 22, 23 minutes. So Jaquez is going to come in and play more, even though he's not starting. Then you look at the fact that when Jimmy Butler's in, obviously that eats into Jaime Jaquez's usage because they do very similar things. Jaquez is kind of the Jimmy replacement when Jimmy's off the floor doing the same type of stuff that he was. Well, if he still gets the 25 to 30 minutes and he's playing with Jimmy Butler, still a really nice hit rate on the 7.5 points, over in 10 of 16. And if you can get 6.5 still, he's over in 12 of 16 with that number. So both are very playable here, especially against Orlando, which is a really good defensive team. Don't get me wrong. There's no real weak points to their defense, but Jaquez gets forgotten about when he's the 4th option on the floor because Bam, Jimmy, and Hero are the top 3, right? And even you could say Rozier is an option ahead of him. We'll see how many minutes they play together, but I do like him to be able to handle things on the second unit for Miami, and I think he'll get a good amount of time with the starters as well. Looking at Andrew Nembhard, but also want to remind you guys, we've got the link is in the description of the video. If you do want to make sure you're not missing a single bet that I'm playing, got a nice little NBA season pass running right now for 40% off if you want to skip the monthly subscription. So definitely want to check that out and see that nice record we're about to put together in the NBA. But looking at Nemby here, look, man, I wish I had a lot more stats and things to give you for Nembhard, but like this is just bottom line disrespectful. He's into the starting lineup now. He just proved last season that he can be the guy on the floor controlling the offense when Halliburton's out. And when he's playing alongside Halliburton or a guy like TJ McConnell, he's still very good as the shooting guard and off-ball guard. Unbelievable defender, cannot take him out for the defense. They don't have as much of that on the wing or even up top guarding the point guard when Nemby's not on the floor. So I think you've got to get him back up to about 28 minutes per game. Even though it's a crowded rotation for Indiana, you're going to see a lot of guys play 25, 26 minutes throughout the season and have that be their averages. But I think Nemby took another step up into the echelon of being as important as guys like Halliburton, Pascal, and Myles Turner. maybe not quite as important as those guys, but right behind them and definitely above guys like Benny Matz, even Aaron Nesmith at times, although they do different things. But mostly him and Benny Mathurin, I think he's going to get a bulk of the minutes here, as he's already proven that he can do what he needs to do. And looking at the Olympics, that was a huge thing for me, the way that he took on the role of being better than Jamal Murray for Team Canada. I love where Andrew Nembhard is at this season. Same game, and I'm looking at Myles Turner threes, and this is not something I love playing. Myles Turner threes is very much so a 50-50 bet. You're going to see the 1.5 threes line for him all season. It's going to be anywhere from -130 to -170 for him to go over, which is what it is here. That's why I like an under. This is a 50-50 gamble, yet we're getting +140, +130 in some places to bet under on Myles Turner threes. That's a bet I got to make, plus EV throughout the rest of the season. It's going to means over time, this bet is going to win me money if I just make it every single time at the odds of +130 or better. You look at him on the season, he averaged 1.5 threes made on 4.4 attempts. But you look at the median number, and that takes out the sort of outliers where he went way over or way under, and he was 1 for 4. And that is what I think you expect from Myles Turner throughout the years: 4 to 5 shot attempts from deep, 1 to 2 of those made. But with the great number of +140, plus a really good matchup against Detroit for him to not make these threes. Detroit's defense last year from three was really good. Monty Williams had them pressured up and taking away the three-point shot, hoping that Jalen Duren could be the sort of anchor on defense that would guard the paint. He didn't do that great at that, but he's young and he didn't play that many games, to be honest. So I think they're going to continue that type of defense under JB Bickerstaff, who coached the Cavs last year, who were also in the top 10 limiting threes the same way that the Detroit Pistons were last year. So I don't think they're going to skip a beat with Bickerstaff in there, limiting three-pointers to the opponent. And Myles went under this in 7 of his last 8 games versus Detroit, and all 4 last season, never making more than 1, only taking an average of 3 per game. So if he's going to take even 4 per game, or 4 in this game, I love him to not hit half of those. If he takes 5, he's still not a 40% three-point shooter. So we're getting a really good number here in terms of the odds back for betting on this. I had to put a little bit on it. Tyrese Maxey, very excited for the season for Maxey this year, probably looking at his first All-Star nod. But this is a game where I actually prefer to fade the assists. If you want to take points, I would not be going under. I'll put it that way. But the assists are not necessarily something that I think are going to be as high for him without JoJo, without Paul George in there. With Embiid, we're talking about 6.8 assists per game. Without Embiid, 5.6 assists per game. So obviously he's finding the big man on the drives and putting him in position to score when he's out there, a full assist fewer when he's not out there, especially because he's taking on a bigger usage in terms of shooting the ball. That's why I like the points. Milwaukee gave up a ton of points to point guards last year, but they allowed the 11th fewest assists to the position. So they definitely aren't playing nearly as much double team ball, right? They're definitely going to pressure up on the spot up shooters. They're going to try to pressure on guys like Tyrese Maxey, but Dame Lillard playing up top is going to be found and hunted plenty. Maxey's just going to do him in. So I like the points for him. I think a 30-plus point game is in the cards for Tyrese tonight, but I would also be fading the assists at the same time. Quick shout out Pat Connaughton from the same game, because I wanted to see who kind of steps up when Middleton is out. And with Middleton out, Pat is the one who actually has the biggest discrepancy between his props here. If you look at the points with Middleton at about 5 per game, still over about 4.5 points, which is his number right now. We don't know exactly how he's going to be used now that Gary Trent is in there, but Gary Trent kind of just comes in and fills the Malik Beasley role. So that still leaves roughly 20 minutes per game for Pat Connaughton. If he gets 20 minutes, which let's be more realistic, 16 to 20. I mean, I can see his floor at about 15, 16 minutes, but I do see him getting close to 20 in this one. In those situations, and without Chris Middleton, he's looking at better than 6.5 points per game. So we have a nice little edge to the 4.5 if you wanted to take that for Patty C. Looking at the Western Conference, there are a few games I didn't get to go through, so I would jump into the live show today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern if you do want to get some of the later night games and looks at those with me online. But looking at John Collins in this Utah and Memphis game, I think this is going to be a pretty fun game here in Utah, so we know there's going to be points galore. And I think we're getting value on John Collins similarly to how we are with Jaime Jaquez, right? Where John Collins is coming in a situation where now he's going to be playing alongside Colin Sexton, Keontae George, Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson's going to be out there. So the guys are all available for Utah, which is annoying because when they're not available, John Collins is a stud. But what helps is it's an 11.5 point prop. And this is something he cleared even when he was playing with all the dudes I just mentioned who were out so often last year. He played 68 games last year, 15 points per game, 8.5 boards with the Jazz, right? With Lowry, George, Keontae, Sexton, and Clarkson, he still was at 14.5 points per game. He went over 11.5 points in 29 of 41. It's a nice 70% hit rate. And the boards are good too. I just don't know how much Walker Kessler's playing, which is something that could definitely eat into what he could do, right? If Walker Kessler's going to actually start, don't think he is, but if he comes in and plays 20 to 25 minutes, he's going to be a better rebounder on the floor than John Collins is. So I'm a little bit scared of the boards. They're right at 8.5, so not much of an edge there. But 11.5 points is too low, and I think that's a good over for JC. On the other side of the ball, we're just all pumped for Ja, right? And I think the assists are a good play here, but I'm probably going to end up staying away. I'd love the points still. 25.5 is high. If it was a little bit lower, I'd feel much better about it. First game back, we don't know what's going to happen, obviously. Missing Triple J, so maybe you like the points better than the assists, but this is a Utah team that allowed the most assists per game to point guards last year. He did topple this number in 6 of the 9 games that he actually played, and I think that's going to continue to be the case. He's going to have Desmond Bane. He's going to have shooters around him more so than he did last year, or the year before, I should say. Marcus Smart, another decent shooter. I like the assist for Ja a lot. I think it's a decent ladder play to 10, but I might just stay away and see how he does in game 1, even though I'm expecting a ton of points in this one in Utah. I wanted to go quickly over the Pelicans situation with you guys too, because there's 4 players who are expected to get 20 or more points in this game, and I just don't understand how that's possible. 4 players being CJ, DJM, DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. Now, Zion and DeJounte Murray are both game time decisions. It could go either way. Trey Murphy's out, so that's a part of the reason why we see all these dudes with high point totals, but they ain't all getting 20 points. BI's at 20.5, DJ Murray at 20.5, Zion at 22.5, McCollum at 18.5. Come on, man. So my thing here is if both Zion and Murray play, I'm going under for McCollum. It's either he or DJ Murray because we don't know how he's going to play with this team, but 20.5 points for Murray just seems way too high in his opener. I just got to see if Zion doesn't play. Right now we've got 3 guys that are going to do the bulk of the scoring, but even if one of these 4 doesn't play, only 2 of these dudes is getting 20 points, if that. So I'm going to be finding some unders, probably get back into that on the live show. One more reminder for you guys, the Discord is live. Now, the VIP Discord, you got to go through WAP.com to get in there, but the regular Discord with plenty of good guest cappers and a lot of really great conversation in these discussions available. Link in the description right now if you want to jump in there. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page so you don't miss any of these videos I'm bringing you every single day as we try to keep this record nice and unblemished moving forward. And until I see y'all next, happy betting.